I don't really feel you hit the brake so much harder than F2, but you stop so much quicker. So the forces your body feels is obviously miles above what you feel in an F2. So getting used to that took a session or so just to, understand that, wow, it's really strong, the forces.
Let's dig in deeper into the driving aspect of things, because that's the more fun part, right? You've driven 3 cars this year already, the Formula 2 car, Formula 1 car, and of course you did the Formula E rookie test with Mahindra as well. And I remember in January at the Inside Line F1 podcast event, you actually announced that you're going to drive a Formula 1 car, and I joked saying you go quicker when there's more downforce on the car. What was the immediate surprise package when you left the pits, you did a couple of laps in the Formula 1 car? Because I know the acceleration not always surprises people, because Formula 2 is also fairly quick. Was it the cornering speeds? Was it the braking? What surprised you saying, okay, wow, this is a step up for me to make?
I think high speed and also braking, but how nimble the car is, obviously in an F2, when you try and think of how you want the corner to go, it's always some adjusting. In F1, whatever you want, the car does. So it's very impressive in that way, and you always feel you can go quicker. In F1, you never really feel you're on the limit because the car can do so much. So that was probably the most impressive thing for me. But the F1 just gave me so much confidence from the get-go, and I could just build into it and push the limits by the end of the day, and it was just a great feeling.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask you was the braking forces. You said in Formula 2 you would brake, in Formula 1 you just do a lift off. Were the braking forces easier to get used to?
Yeah, I think the F1 is, obviously, I don't really feel you hit the brake so much harder than F2, but you stop so much quicker. So the forces your body feels is obviously miles above what you feel in an F2. So getting used to that took a bit of took a session or so just to, understand that, wow, it's really strong, the forces. And also the G-forces through all the fast corners is obviously way higher than a Formula 2 car. But it's such a well done car that it gives you so much confidence to push, which is the most important thing. You never feel like you're going to lose grip or the car's going to move, or it's always planted, and it feels very nice.
I've got Kaggle. I think I got the pronunciation right. I tried,
yeah.
Right? And I know you've actually worked with several drivers before. Could you name some of those really established drivers?
Yeah, I worked with a few along the years. So
Fernando
Alonso, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, and a few more in the past. So at the moment, stepping in this position, as we're a man down in our team, but yeah.
Simplifying, what actually happens at a Formula 1 test?
It's to be honest, this test with the older cars, just to give the younger drivers a bit of a feel of what is F1, what's involved in F1. We try to give them really a flavor of like how would a typical weekend look. So that's kind of what we're running through, like simulating through the day. So it will involve a lot of procedures and setup changes, and just working with them and let them get used to the environment of an F1 car and the setup changes that we would typically do.
Right, and while you're helping Kush settle in the car, what exactly do you end up testing when it comes to a driver?
To be honest, like we're looking for a lot of things. Like we'll be looking at consistency, we're looking at his driving style, his feedback, his personality. We evaluate the whole package. Like it needs to, drivers these days, they really need to fit in the team and become part of the team, and that's what we're looking at.
What are the typical variables that come into play at a test? Because lap times get impacted by what sort of tires you use, what engine modes you have, weather, etc.
I think the weather is probably the biggest input in a way. Like the track gets quicker and slower during the day, depending on the wind, the temperature, etc. So it will depend on a lot of different factors. We try to adjust for it, but obviously the peak times of the track, when it's a little bit cooler and it's well rubbed in, that are obviously optimum for the lap times.
And I've seen that there are more than 30 members of the Alpine F1 team you're supporting Kush, right? So how do you actually help a driver go quicker? Because that's eventually also lap time, the clock never lies. So how does Alpine help him sort of pick up the pace?
We'll do the usual thing that we do with all our drivers, I would say. We'll compare the data compared to other drivers who have driven this car at this track, etc. So we'll look at how his inputs are, what he's doing, and we got a good feel on he needs to improve on, and we'll keep working with him.
So when you speak to other Formula 2 drivers, do you all normally talk about how the F1 tests work? Because it is everyone's dream, right? Everyone in their own ways either gets to achieve it via a test or no. When you go back to the paddock, do you all end up talking about Formula 1 testing?
No, obviously Victor and I are very close. We're in the same academy and we've done a lot of we've done training camps together and everything. So like I said, it's a dream for us and he's in the same boat as I am. He's been chasing the same dream as I have. So it's a surreal moment for both of us. Victor obviously has a bit more experience in these cars, but I think every time you get into this car, it's something you can't really describe. So it's a special feeling every time.
But when you all talk about your tests, what do you all talk about? Do you all talk lap times? Do you all talk how quick the cars are, how easy some things were, how challenging some things were? Or do you all hide some information, like, because it is so competitive?
No, I think the F1 is such a well-designed car that it actually is easy to drive in a way. Obviously very difficult to be on the limit, but to drive it, it's you know, it rides over curbs really well compared to an F2. It's obviously got power steering and it's a very well designed, it's the pinnacle of sports. So we definitely talk about how quick the car is and, you know, or we have to brake in F2 here, but we can do it in a lift and all that stuff. So mainly it's about how impressive the car is always.